Now, welcome everyone. I am so excited for you to be here today. The reason why I'm so excited is because if you are someone that has ever thought about or considered creating and selling a curriculum, this is the program for you. So for any of you who may be interested or thought, I got some great content and maybe I'd love for other people to teach it. I want to license my content so that others can teach it so that I'm impacting people.
I'm not going to New York. I don't know why you keep saying that. We missed the COVID.
Before it gets personal, I'm going to go ahead and mute that person. Okay, so I want you to realize that there is content and information that you have access to that if you've ever thought, man, I wish they would teach this in school. There's so much more than just basic things like math and science. There's other things that are important. There's actually a lot of space in the education system for that. But what they don't want to do is go to teachers and educators and after-school providers and say, just go ahead and teach this. They would rather get curriculum, which is you teaching people how to teach what you know. So if that's something that you've been interested in, you are in the right place. We're going to break down as much as we possibly can. We have a very, very special guest. I've got Carlos Malave with us. He is an incredible guy who went through the TSS system a couple years back. I've known him for many years, and he's always been really good at asking questions and trying to get put on game. And he's done really well as a professional speaker. He's trained as a physical education teacher and was a teacher, got interested in speaking, and then saw an incredible gap between what he was learning in restorative practices and what was being taught and how to bring these great things that are typically taught in a seminar into the classroom. And he's done an incredible job. He sells these curriculums for tens of thousands of dollars. People repeat working with him year after year. He's really, really good at it. So when he was telling me about what he's doing with the curriculum and how he's applied ideas from the True Speaking Success System into the curriculum, he was like, man, let's put something together. Now, in full disclosure, we were supposed to do this earlier, but my schedule was super busy and I couldn't make it work. And I said, can we please still do it? He said, I got you. I just really, really want to give this information. So I'm so excited to have him here. We're going to try to do everything we possibly can in the time we have together. I'm aiming to look at maybe 60 to 90 minutes or so, maybe a little bit more, to try to do as much as we can. But in all transparency, there's no way I or Carlos or anyone can teach you everything that you need to know on a subject in an hour. If you ever felt like that was true, that you could do everything, I don't believe that, because it's just not possible. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do everything we possibly can. At the end of today, Carlos is going to let you know about a really great program that he's starting in January. For any of you who are serious, it's not going to be for everyone. I know there's a group of people on here that are just kind of kicking tires and trying to figuring things out. But for those of you who are like, no, I want to do this. I think 2021 is going to be a big bounce back year, which it will be. And I want to get this out, and I've been sitting on it. We're going to tell you how to do that, and it's going to be really, really cool. So with that said, Carlos, why don't you jump in and give a very brief background on how you even discovered curriculum development and how you got into it in the first place.
Well, first of all, thank you, Ariel, for the introduction. And I appreciate everybody being here on a Christmas break day. So that's how serious it is. It's big for you to be here. So it means that you're really about this work and trying to create real impact. So as Ariel said, I got my degree from SUNY Cortland, upstate New York, in physical education. So to be doing what I'm doing now is like phenomenal to me. I sit back and I think about my journey through education, and it's been kind of amazing to me. So I started as a physical education teacher in teaching. And while I was in teaching, I was dealing with a lot of students with discipline and restorative practice within schools. And then as I got into speaking and I got hooked up with Ariel, over the time, I started seeing that there was a gap that needed to be filled. I went to these restorative justice conferences, and they'll teach you how to do circles. They'll teach you how to do a little bit of conflict resolution, a couple of activities. And then you go back into the classroom and it was like, okay, how do I make this work like on a daily basis? And it was kind of weird to me where I was seeing that this type of work like is something that can be beneficial and everybody's interested in it, but no one actually created something yet that can actually go into classrooms on a daily basis and actually build, right? Now, there have been some schools across the country that were able to do it, but why isn't it something that is normalized, right? And better yet, why isn't there like a curriculum that people can go to and use lessons with, whether it's teachers, programs, coaches, to actually implement the practices, right? So, I've been in education for 10 years, and I started physical education, then I did life skill classes, and then I became a restorative justice coordinator through my speaking experience. And then I was granted opportunities to go into the classroom and actually teach it. So that's how it started. And then I started as a restorative justice coordinator out here in Houston, Texas, where I was in a high school and they wanted me to teach a council class in addition to being a restorative justice coordinator. So while I was doing the work, I'm building lessons. I'm trying to find out a way to make the students be representatives of the work and lead the work, right? So I could step back, and the kids are taking student accountability. So I had to be very creative and use my experience of education and doing lesson plans and curriculum development and unit plans and all that. And then I sat down with AP statistics teachers and AP lit teachers and sat down with them and said, hey, how do you do your lesson planning, right? Similar to how me and Ariel came to know each other really well, me just asking questions like, how do you do this? What is it that you do to make it better, right? So I sat down with these educators that were way better than me in lesson planning, and I just learned, right? And then I just developed content and continued to go and got better at it. And then at the end of the year, I was able to develop a curriculum. And then from there, it started, I'm already getting my speaking engagements down. I'm getting exposure. I'm feeling the impact. I'm educating. And then I see an opportunity to actually impact more. So I've seen schools that are in need. I'm talking to administrators, I'm talking to teachers, I'm talking to program directors, and seeing that there was a real need for it. So I started to make it more specific, right? And how can it be actually put into the classroom? How could it be put into programs, right? And I started working, and then from there, it grew into something. Now I'm in 3 schools in Texas and in New York, where they have implemented my curriculum, and I'm working with them to, do PDs and addition and follow-ups to help the school be able to grow the restorative practices within their school and their classrooms.
Now, just for anyone who's not familiar with the term restorative practice, just very quickly define that so people can grasp what kind of curriculum this actually is.
All right, so I created my own program through Translated Success. It's called and the curriculum is actually called the Restorative Power Program. And my definition towards it is living in a way that gives you the opportunity to address all situations that come up in your life and get to the root cause of it, right? So that is my definition of restorative power. And it's very related to restorative practices, where it's basically getting to the root, right? So, and my thing is a lot of, and the thing for me, right? For me, it was teachers going in and teaching the practice to students, but yet are the teachers practicing the material themselves? Are they living restoratively? So with restorative power, it's more than just something you do within the confines of 6 to 8 hours. It's actually something that you can take home, like you're doing it in school, and then it makes you think like, oh, I really have to have this conversation with this person, right? This family member, this friend, or whatever, right? I need to address this thing. I can't be running away from it. I say this all the time as I train teachers across the country. It's like, you can't walk into the classroom and expect kids to just give you respect when you're not getting that type of respect with your peers, right? It doesn't work like that, right? So to actually make real impact and connect, kids can smell fake from a mile away. As we all know, a lot of educators and administrators and speakers are in here now. Kids can smell fake from a mile away. So the only way to actually build those connections is to actually practice what you preach. And this will and then my curriculum puts the teacher in situations where they have to express something they went through to connect with the student, for them to express something back, right? It's a give and take. It's not just, oh, let's do circle. It's more about, and it's not just circles, right? I call everything power rounds. Everything's with power because it's about taking your
And
power
just
back.
define circle, so for those who don't know what that means and how that is set up.
So in the classroom, usually restorative circles are used to resolve conflict. So you get a circle where you get the conflict resolution circles is where mostly it's used, and it started in the criminal justice system, right? Where they did it in there to kind of get the person who did the harm to sit down with the person who was harmed, right? And try to come with a healing process through that conversation, right? And then with that, it got into schools, and now they use it when the student messes up or does something wrong to sit down with the teacher, the administrator, the people that were harmed, the people that were affected, and then come together and have a conversation of support. Like, how do we support this person to get back on track? We let everything out, and then you get into a space of within the circle of like, okay, I take this responsibility to help this person get back on track. And then the person can actually hear what other people feel, right? So that is what circles are. For me, I kind of like, it's not just when something goes wrong, let's do power rounds, which is circles, in my classroom, where it's like, let's do it on a daily basis. Let's have these conversations. Let's learn to look people in the eye and connect, and actually know that you're not the only one going through pain, right? And the teacher has to be able to, connect with that and actually dive into the work as well. So for me, it's more about like training the mind to be able to do it, so that when something goes wrong, it's second nature. It's not like, oh, I don't do it in circle now. It's like, oh, this is what we do. This is what helps me build relationships. This is what helps me connect with people, right? So it's not something that is scary for a student, right? And also it's very scary for adults, because adults are just students that cover up their trauma throughout the years, and then they're just protecting themselves, right?
Right.
So it's the same thing. And I do circles with adults and students. And the crazy thing is that adults need it more, just as much as the students do, because like they were able to become successful by hiding their trauma even better than everybody else, and just covering up, to the point that they're so set in their ways. And for me, it's about breaking the wall. And how do I break the wall? I show you that I broke my walls.
Yeah. So what was it? I'm always big into the why of why people do what they do. And as you mentioned earlier, for those who caught, PE teacher, right? That was what your training was. So this kind of took you in a new direction. So I understand you went in that direction, but why is this particular work important to you, Carlos?
Yeah, and this is what I help people do, right? And for those who are serious about it, we'll dive in so that we can get to this point, right? With education and with speaking, and then with curriculum development, it was all a process. And Ariel knew me when I was raw. I was making YouTube videos. I had the fly stuff. I was on Instagram, right? I was doing everything crazy, right? But was my purpose really there, right? And that all comes with experience. But you need to speak from your own experience, and surround yourself around people that keep it real with you. So my wife is always telling me, speak from what you've seen, right? Because even for me, right, I had so much trauma that I didn't even know was trauma, because I was just trying, like the whole Will Smith thing, just trying to be happy and make everybody laugh and just act like, and everybody in high school, and there's some people that I see that's in this call that know me from high school, and I was just this happy kid that looked like I got everything going on, but there was so much trauma with what was going on in my household that I just tried to cover up, right? So I had to come to terms with me talking about my pain and addressing that, so that I can share it and use it as an example. So with teaching, I was able to connect with students, and I noticed the gap. Like I started teaching when I was 21. So like I was a kid, and I was like going in there with grown kids, right? That looking at me eye level, and I had to learn the hard way, right? So I was the one that bumped heads with kids, and then learned how to organically and genuinely connect. And it's about giving, right? So with that, I got into education, started connecting with students, and seeing that process. And then with speaking, right? I met Ariel, and I'm doing my thing. I have this ability to speak in front of big crowds, and I always had it. And then I seen this a profession, but I had to find my niche. I had to find like how can I create the most impact, right? So and that's how it happened. Like I just stayed true to myself, and I was a physical education teacher. And then I became a restorative justice coordinator and working with administrators. And then through me just continuously putting myself out there, I was granted more opportunities to find my passion. And when I was a restorative justice coordinator, um, this is my main purpose, and it's about to go deep, right? So there was this student, Sam Lopez, that I dealt with on a daily basis. I mentored this kid. He was struggling. School wasn't it for him. He had a lot of trauma himself, and he was trying to deal with it, but didn't know how and didn't have any male role models, right? Most schools have this situation, but this kid was a split image of my father, right? And it was crazy. Like his temper, his anger, and my father, amazing guy, but he came from nothing, very poor, learned English on the street, came here from Puerto Rico, had a lot of trauma. His dad died when he was 4, my grandpa, he was abused in school, was bullied, and then he was able to become successful, marry a college educated woman, right? And continue to do push-ups and get big, right? So he just continued covering up. So it reminded me, but he had a lot of anger issues, and it would come out sporadically when things didn't go their way, right? And they used to do things to him and Sam used to do things just to cover it up, right? And be okay with things without just saying, hey, nah, I'm not okay with that, and just letting it fester. And then one day you just snap, right? So I'm seeing the connection with this kid and my father, right? And we're building, and I'm getting them, we are getting to places where he's able to articulate, I'm able to articulate. And the crazy thing, I'm learning more about myself dealing with him, right? And then, and by the way, this happened 2 years ago, and we still in connection, and we still working together. But then January 10th, 2019, while I was at Cape Houston High School, I was a restorative justice coordinator. We were building a program. I had my students that counsel. We were going around the school. They were dealing with issues. I'll be like, Kimberly, go deal with that. Ibrahim, go deal with this situation, right? This kid is cursing out a teacher. Go do that. Go run a circle here. So I'm giving the kids exposure in the class through my curriculum, and then they're going out and doing the work. And then I use my connections with speaking to have my kids do presentations in circles and at elementaries, at high schools. So much so that ABC News did a feature of us, right? And it was going so well, and I'm like, I found it. Like, this is what I like to do, and I'm passionate about it. I love what I'm doing. And then January 10th, 2019, my father committed suicide. And on a whole nother level, and it's still very raw, and on a whole nother level, everything like stopped, right? And like I said at the beginning, it gets to a point where like certain experiences happen and they make you who you are. And I had a decision. I was the one that always, I was the big brother, the one everybody went to. My father used to come to me for advice, which is crazy. My dad dealt with a lot of alcoholism, drugs, but this is the type that he was very functional. He would go drinking all night, and then he would go to his construction job the next morning and not skip a beat, and did it for 25 plus years. So and that was, you know what I mean, it wasn't right, and there was a lot of things going on that he wasn't addressing. Why was he drinking? Right? And it was about hiding and getting away from the pain that he was feeling. So when he was doing that, I had to readdress all of that, and I couldn't hide anymore. Like I was taking care of everybody, and I started breaking down, but felt like I couldn't, right? And then when I went to the hospital, my father jumped in front of a train in New York City, and it's very traumatic. I had to go. I got the call while I was at work. I just talked to him the day before, and I just had a feeling that something was wrong. And then the next morning, I'm calling him, and then his phone. I'm actually dealing with Sam, which is crazy. And the phone rings, and it's him. I'm like, oh, my pop's finally calling me, and it's the FBI, right, telling me, what happened. So I had to go deal with family and try to keep everybody's spirits up, because that's just who I am for the family, and keep everybody, I mean, see what's going on and try to do as much as I can to make sure everybody's good. Then I get back, and my wife, and then I break down, and my wife, having these conversations with my wife, she was like, yo, like, for so long, your dad trained you to be better than him. right? Your mission was always to be better than him. And that's what my dad did. He was like, you're a better version of me. Like, I want you to be better. That's why I never drank. I never touched anything, right? And he protected me for that. And then we're talking and she was like, yeah, your measuring stick, you know what I mean? He's gone. Who are you? And I couldn't answer that freaking question. And in that moment, I was like, damn. The next day I went to therapy. And from there, I really dove into the work and the restorative work. And then I actually went to work faster and then sat in those circles with my kids and let them see the pain that I was going through because I felt like I had to go back, right? And my kids were like, asking about me. So I came back as an example because I'm teaching them how to do all this stuff. And then I go through the hardest thing in my life and, I can't do it. So I had to go back and I dove into the work even deeper and was able to help the kids have a real life example of like, oh, damn, like he went through that and now he's still here and he's actually doing the work and he's crying with us and he's doing it. And then at the end of the year, I left the job to start my business. And that's where the whole curriculum even more, because now with the curriculum, I say it like this. If my curriculum was, I built my curriculum in a way that if it was around when my dad was growing up, he would still be alive. And that's why I go so hard with this curriculum and the restorative power. Because if there was somebody that was there for my dad, like, I was fortunate enough to be there for Sam, and I'm still there for Sam, my dad would probably still be alive because he would have gotten the skills and feel like he wasn't crazy. Because a lot of the stuff he was going through, everybody goes through, but you feel crazy when you keep it all in, right? And that's the whole thing, taking your power back with restorative power.
Yeah, you know what? And I'm so glad that you shared your story and your why behind it. And I want to reiterate something that was embedded in what Carlos was just saying, that why you're doing this has to be very strong, because ultimately in business, in entrepreneurship, in speaking, in curriculum development, whatever it is, if your why isn't strong enough, as many of us know, as soon as you get bumped against a stumbling block, a wall, a reason to not do something, you're going to quit. And I think what happens for a lot of people is that they're looking for an easy solution. I think they're looking for like, oh, if I do this, it's easy money and all is well in the world, yay! And that's not what this is or anything is. You have to have a desire to reach out to people to prove that there's value, and even if you get no, you won't stop because you believe in it so much. So what I'd love for you to start jumping into, Carlos, is talking about, you have this idea, you have these experiences, you have this why, but now you have to get others to agree that this is worth paying you for it. Talk about how you got that very first curriculum sale. Who was the person? How did you present it? And give us all of that story for anyone who's looking to figure out how to get their first one.
Yeah, and that's a really good question. I'm gonna get into that, but for what you said last, and I want to give you like, the purpose is this real. Like, in my wallet, right behind my ID, I still have my pop's ID. So like, I literally walk around with my purpose daily, and I look at it and I think about when things go hard or if things get tough, which they have been. I look at that ID and I sit there and I allow myself to process, right? And you know what I mean, and push through, because my father would have wanted me to, right? So with that, the journey started. I took a year off. My wife was like, "Yo, just, you're so close to building your business, right? Let's just do it. Like, go all out, right? And you need some time to process your father's death, and you know what I mean. The job was good. You got the experience now. Now build off of that." So honestly, thanks to my wife, always have like people in your corner, right? So make sure those people are like really there for you. My wife told me, you know what I mean? And even with, we were always on two incomes, like secure incomes, both educators. And my wife's like, yo, take the year off, right? So you could work on your business. And I just went all in, man. It wasn't really a year off, because I was just like, I dove into building this curriculum, and it was actually therapy for me. Like, I was building it, thinking about my father and what would actually help somebody that was going through the things that he was going through, right? And to be honest, like I used to be like, yo, I come from this, I come from that, but like I was protected. I had privilege in having a father that went through real stuff and was like, he was able to like block things from happening in my, like with the neighborhood, you know, people that were doing the wrong thing or into the bad things. Like they knew my pops, so they wouldn't mess with me. So I was very privileged in that regard. So like noticing that, and then working that gap, right? And addressing that when I speak or when I connect with people, right? So I got the curriculum, I'm building it, and I'm just trying. It's a test run. Now it's like, yo, it don't matter if it work or not, because I believe in the work. Like this work, I really believe. Like I put my tears, my sweat into this, and I really believe. And I seen it work. Like I literally that I came back after my father's passing, and I came back to the high school that I was at as a restorative justice coordinator, and I did the work with the kids, and I sat there, and even I used them. I was like, after school, I would be like, yo, you think this is good? Like, what lesson worked for you? Like, what will connect with you? Like, I know that connects with me, but like, does it connect for you? So I was like doing the work. And that's very similar to how I wrote my book. Like I got the blueprint from Ariel, and I was a PE teacher at the time when I wrote the book. And, you know, I got the blueprint. I wrote the book in 3 months. I was like in between classes writing book, and because I heard Ariel, he was telling me he had his computer and he would be on the train, he would get an idea and then start writing. And I was like, yo, I'm about to do the same thing. I'm in school, at lunchtime I was writing, in between classes I was writing, and then the key, I sat down with kids, 6th grade all the way to 12th grade. Like, yo, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Is that chapter good? Does that connect? Yo, like, so I did the same thing with the curriculum. So I know it worked. So like when the book came out, it's not about sales for me. It's more about like, yo, like my book is good. And I love when kids are reading it. And every school that I worked at, kids buy my book, or the school buys my book for the kids, and I see them reading it and all that. So that means more to me. And they come up to me, it's like, yo, I didn't know you went through that. Like, I'm going through that. Like, and I kind of like did it as a dialogue, right? So like I'm there, but not there, right? So like you having a conversation with me. So that's how I wrote my book. And that's how I did my curriculum, right? Where you really get to know the person, right? And whoever's running the curriculum, it's like you getting that figure right in front of you, right? And you're gonna build that relationship, right? So I believed in it, and then it just was a test run. I hit up every school, like just like when I was trying to get into the speaking thing, and Ariel know, like Ariel was the only one that hit me back up. I hit up everybody. I was emailing everybody, and I didn't know how to email people. I was like, yo, like, can I like, can you teach me how to do this, or blah blah, or do you have a program, blah blah. I was hitting up everybody on when I started speaking. Ariel was the only one that hit me up. That stuck with me. So that just stuck with, I only need one. Like, if I believe what I do, all I need is one. And if I get that one, right, I'll be all right. So Ariel sparked that, right? So from that, the curriculum, I test run on so many schools, and so many schools wanted it for free. And that's just the honest truth. Like, people don't see the value in it like that, right? So especially when you're starting out and you have no results yet, right? But you can't let that discourage you. Look in your wallet and see what you put in your wallet, because I got my pops in my wallet. So like that kept me going. Like, what are you putting in your wallet, right? So I looked at it, I kept going, and I used my connections. I got into schools, talked to administrators. I got so close. I would get into the meeting with the administrator and the school board, right? And they would be like, oh, this is great. We would love to have this or whatever. When can we start? And I was like, yeah, we could do this, blah, blah. And then they wanted it for free. And I was like, square one, right? So I had to start all over. And how do I present it better? How do I connect? Like, what are they looking for? Getting connected with people that are inside, right? And that's what me and Ariel talked about, like building networking. And you have to get the person who really is about the work you're trying to implement. For me, restorative practices goes with SEL, social emotional learning. So you got to connect with who's running that, who's in charge of that, right? And if you get them to your side, you could get yourself in the door. For me, it was one of my boys. He was a teacher at the school. He got me in the door as a speaker. And then from doing a speaking engagement, I was like, hey, I got a curriculum, blah, blah. I started doing PDs. And then from there, I did a 2-day PD, and the principal was skeptical. Like, of course, like, you don't know this person, you don't know if it works. There's no really results out there. But I bet on myself, and that's how you gotta believe in you gotta put all into it, that you believe in it so much that you're willing to take a risk. Like, you know what I mean? Whether it works or not, you put it out there and you got better. There's no, and we hear this all the time, there's no losses, there's a lesson, right? So either you win or you learn how to win for later, right? So I went in there and I killed it. 2-day PD. I had teachers crying, not about my story. My story is just an example. I had them talk. I had 2 people that came from 2 different worlds crying in front of each other, and having breakthroughs, that so much so that the principal in that moment saw that and was like, okay, that's it. We're hiring you. We're gonna buy your curriculum, and we're gonna bring you back.
So at this point, when you're doing the PD, they're aware that the curriculum exists. So you mentioned to them, I have this curriculum. Let's do it.
Yeah, and they gave me the whole like, oh, this is nice. This is cool. Yeah, like, oh, you know, it's cool. And they look through it. It's like, oh, this would be valuable. This would be great. But no one's really giving me a deal, right? Or like giving me like, hey, how can we make this how can we put this in actually? How can we implement it? And then I just continue pushing and allow myself to put myself in that space. And, you know what I mean? You just need to continue to go and be like, okay, whether I get paid or not right now, I need to get in. So I kept doing the PDs, I kept doing it. And it wasn't for like the big numbers that it ended up going to, but because I did those small numbers, it got me to the big numbers, right? And, you know, and once again, it wasn't about the numbers. It was because the only thing that got me into it, because I really believed in it. And once my work showed, the right people were in the room, and I was able to get an opportunity. Right now,
and, you know, and I want to say something about this. This is important.
Yeah.
A lot of time when people get started, it's a very common thing I've seen, and I want everyone to catch this. A lot of times when people get asked, "Oh, come in and do your PD," they was like, "Well, I'll only come in if you pay me." And if you don't have any results, you don't have any experience, you don't have anything, it's really hard to get people to say yes. So what Carlos did is he bet on himself. He said, let me come in, let me do this training, because I know that if you experience just a taste of it, you're going to want the whole meal, which is the curriculum. So let's jump into this, okay? You do the PD, and again, for anyone who doesn't know what PD stands for, it stands for professional development. So it's the work you do for staff at a school. You come in, they say, yo, we want the curriculum. How do you decide how long the curriculum is going to be? Is it a month long? Is it a semester long? Is it 1 hour long, 30 minutes long? How do you decide what you're putting together to know that it's going to be what folks want?
Yeah. And for me, it went back to what we talked about earlier when it came to me starting out with the class, right? And seeing that, oh, I'm going to these conferences and there's only like this little mini sample of how to do restorative practices in your school. There's a gap, right? And I was like, everybody wants it, but there's nothing that's tangible that could go in a classroom and withstand a year. So from my personal experience, I filled the gap. I literally filled the gap. And people have told me I've never seen this, like a curriculum that's aligned to standards. Like I sat down with these AP Lit teachers and these lesson plan like savants, and I was like, yo, how can I translate my work to standards and TEKS? In Texas, they call them TEKS, right? And how do I use the verbiage to connect it? So I sat down and did that, right? And then when I started doing it, I was like, hey, if there's something that can fulfill a semester, it will show value, because I don't see nobody doing it. I see people doing stuff and they give you stuff for a week, or you can do for like an after school program, but ain't nothing like tangible that you say, yo, like this can help my students be able to annotate information for practice for the STAR test or the state test, right? Or they can have this standards for being able to, for public speaking. I had no idea, right? I'm a PE teacher. I knew that there were standards for physical education in all aspects, but I didn't speaking standard, or there was a social justice standards that are out there. And I was like, whoa, once I found this, I found the ones that connected to what I did, right? And that is what you need to do. Finding out how your work can translate to school standards and the verbiage. And once you learn the language, and that's what I'm teaching. Once you learn the language, you can get the attention of those decision makers or those people that will be like, yo, I need that. Because there's administrators, there are assistant principals, there are guidance counselors trying to bring in programs, and they just tell them, hey, we need SEL, we need social emotional learning to be able to fit this need. So when the people come to test our school, especially charter schools, test our school, right? We need to show them that we can actually cover that SEL piece, right? That social emotional learning, right? So there is opportunity there. So for me, it's like, okay, how do I make it valuable, right? So one semester, and then I had the experience, use your own experience. My experience, I was a restorative justice coordinator for a year. I had a year's worth of stuff. I could have chopped it up. I could have, you know what I mean? So I had a year's worth of lessons and unit plans and all that. So for me, I think because the gap is there and you got to look at your specific field. Is it a semester? Is it a couple weeks? Is it a year?
Now,
Right?
when you say semester, just for clarity, how long are we talking? Are we talking about 5 lessons, 8 hours a day? Are we talking about 1 hour a day? How much is a semester?
A semester, okay, a semester is about 3 months, right? Three to 4 months, depending on how the schedule is for the school. And within that, your lesson should be able to cover one lesson per week, right? So if you do one lesson per week for 40, I would recommend 30 to 45 minutes, because this is how you can use your curriculum and get it out there. There's a lot of schools that do homeroom or advisory periods. And if they can't get it into the classroom, that's how I started. I started getting my stuff into an advisory period where teachers sit down and build relationships with a cohort of students. So boom, you create lessons, you make it easier. So the teacher doesn't, this is how you connect it. You make their job easier. I learned this from Ariel. Try to find a need. Teachers do not like to do extra work. You know how I know? I'm a teacher and I've been a teacher for 10 years, right? So they do not like doing extra work, right? They like perfecting their work, but anything extra will be, why? So, and especially if you don't believe in it. So if you can create something to make their job easier, like, hey, it's all there. And for me, I learned how to do lesson plans too. I worked for the top charter schools in the country. I was at a developing one in New York, which was Inwood Academy for Leadership. So I got to see the ins and outs of them trying to develop something and trying to make it look legit. So we have to try to be legit. Then I went to a Yes Prep in Houston, Texas, which is a really well-known school. They have like 50 something schools and still growing out here. And then I am at KIPP now, right? And I am currently, so to show the proof, I am currently a restorative power teacher. I'm literally teaching my curriculum on a elementary campus on a daily basis. So I create, like, you gotta, I work for the top charter school. So I learned like how to make the lesson plan simplistic, but also connected to the standards and how it can be used for these big state tests, or, see, like I can make the connection for the teacher to be like, oh, this is why we should do this.
Yeah,
Right?
and I want to jump in something because I want to make sure everyone catches what was just said, because it really is it's game changing. Okay, it's game changing if you do it. So everyone here is going to be talking about different things, whether it's finance, whether it's language, whether it's social emotional skills. What you want to do is understand what are the standards in your state
Yes.
that these schools must teach.
Yes.
This is public information. So if you're doing something that's finance based, just Google what are the financial literacy standards of New York, of Texas? What are they teaching? Then what you do is go and connect. Here's what I'd like to do. Here's what I'd like to teach. Oh, they have to teach this standard. That's covered in week 2. Check. Oh, you got to cover this standard. Oh, that's covered in week 1. Check. Go ahead, Carlos.
And even with that, and if going back to the true speaking success, you find a need. Imagine the email you send once you create a curriculum. Yo, it's gonna be light work for you. I can sit there and be like, boom, because I know my material. I know how it connects to your school, and I know how it connects to most schools. Yo, when you have this conversation on the phone, like you telling them what they need to be doing, right? And you're telling them what their bosses are telling them, and you're just like, yeah, like my program does that.
And the reason why that's so important is because you don't have to, and again, this goes back to what he said. I want you to catch all these gems that he's dropping. If you make it simple, they don't have to figure out how to fit your curriculum into their work. They're like, oh, you hit this goal, you hit this goal. Wonderful. It's done. I don't have to like convince anyone or bend anything. That makes it easier for people to say, yeah. So don't just build it, but build it and connect it to the curriculum. And I just want to point out that Janae, who's a rock star, pointed out that all the standards are on the Department of Education website for each state. So it's very easy to find this information.
And Ariel, you say this all the time. The information is out there, but no one wants to look, right? Yeah. No one really takes the time to look. And the ones that look, you'd be like, and Ariel, you say this all, and that's the thing that I appreciate. And I tell people all the time when I'm like, because I remember Justin on your Instagram was like, yo, did you know Carlos put me on to you? Like, I'd be like, everybody like, yo, how did you learn? I was like, yo, like, I invested in myself, and you know what I mean? I went and got mentorship, and this guy, he bald-headed just like me, and you know what I mean, he was killing the game, and I just asked him, and you know what I mean, once I did that, I learned the game, and you know what I mean, it's out there, but you know what I mean, and the thing for me, and you used to say this at the beginning, that really caught me, and I was just like listening, like full out, anything you said, and I was like, at the beginning of my journey in speaking, and you were like, yo, like you have talent, but if only you knew like the little details, the little like tricks, right? To like, for example, like what type in your program, the True Speaking Success program, like you show like certain words that you put in the email that will get your email deleted. I had no idea. So I was wasting a lot of time with emails, and I learned that from you. So like similar, I kind of took that kind of blueprint and used it to my personal experience. Like that's why I tell everybody, like I was in schools. So I just used what was in front of me, and I used the same concepts that this guy did, Ariel, and I put it into my work, right? It's just the concepts, right? So I started building my curriculum that way. And for what I tell people now, like everybody wants something free, but like if you really want to get to the next level, you have to invest. Like at first, like you talking to someone like I dodged Ariel for like a year and a half. I was like, yo, I'm not paying for that. I could do this on myself. Like I'm making money. Like I got a teaching job and I'm getting speaking deals, and my videos are like popping. Like I had like video editors. Ariel used to hit me up for my videos. He was like, yo, like they look nice, look like commercials. And I was like, yeah, so I'm good. So why I need to like join your stuff? Yo, I swear to God, I lied to you not. Yeah, I lied to you not. The moment I invested, yo, I purchased the True Speaking Success. I wrote this bad boy in 3 months, and then I went from my deals went from 1,000 to 5,000 to 10,000, and now I'm in the 20s. And this all happened within months. Just me learning. When I'm sending emails, I'm sending them knowing the verbiage, knowing where to look for information, knowing how to connect, right? So I kind of took all that concept, like that concepts that Ariel was teaching me in his field, and I was like looking at my field. And that's what I tell you guys. Like I'm looking at my educational field, my personal experience with my dad and with school and with the kids I'm dealing with, mentorship. And I took Ariel's idea of filling the gap, and then I created my own thing. And now I'm giving it back to people on like, yo, like I know how to sell a curriculum for 20,000, 15, 20,000 and up, right? And this is how you do it, right?
Yeah, and I want to show something, man. I appreciate everything you said, and I can't echo that enough. That there's a lot of game that's out there that a lot of people are like, I'm gonna figure it out on my own. Yeah. And you know, I remember when a mentor told me when I said that exact same thing to him years ago. He said, "How's that been working for you?" And I was like,
Yeah.
Perfect, right? So I want to show you this, right? So this is a curriculum that I put together. A lot of people don't know that I had a curriculum. I did one for 30,000 and I sold a bunch for 10. The 30,000 had professional development, speaking engagements, and books connected to it. And then I was starting to sell curriculums for 10,000 at a pop, right? So this is when I built this, and I built this years ago. And I want to show you what Carlos is talking about and how I applied that to one of them. So this is one of the pillars that I created, which was based off of the curriculum. But I want you to catch this part right here, okay? Where it says CCSS, right? This is when Common Core just came out. So there was all this like, what's going on with Common Core? Who knows Common Core? Now, I want you to see this language here, ELA literacy, CCRA.R1, key ideas and details. This right here is that language. And then right here, in the curriculum, we talk exactly about the Common Core standards that this particular document is addressing, as well as this thing called GIPRA, which is more important to groups who are in like the GERA program. So now I'm going to give you a little hack. Aurel, how did you learn all that stuff? How did you know all that stuff? Well, I didn't. I didn't know that stuff. This is what I did. I created the content I cared about that was important to me, right? Just same way that Carlos was saying it. And then I worked with someone who was a PhD in education. I literally went on Facebook and said, do I know anyone that's a PhD in education? And one of my friends says, I'm actually getting my PhD right now. I said, well, here's what I'm doing. I need someone. Now I paid them, but they were knee deep in trying to understand Common Core when it had first come out. So they were so well versed with it. So when I showed them my content, she was like, oh, this connects to this, this connects to this, this connects to this. So when I presented it to that first person to buy it, it was like Carlos is saying, I was translating exactly what they wanted to hear. I was saying exactly like, oh my gosh, it covers, CCR. And in my head, I was like, yo, I legit didn't know this. But this is what Carlos is saying. Because he's an educator, he understood this. So I encourage all of you, when you build your curriculum, first build it on what you care about, but then make sure you can match it up to those standards.
Yep. And use what you got. Like I look, and it's made me so much better speaker because I know the verbiage, I know the connection, I know what they're looking for. I used to sit in the principal's office and just hear conversations. You know why? Everybody's like, why are you doing that? It was like, because I want to know what they're looking for. I want to know how they talk. And if I learn how they talk, guess what? I know how to talk to the next one. I know what they're looking for. I know how to help them, right? So I learned that, right? And once you got to use which is in front of you, and whatever access you have, right, to connect those dots, you use it, right? And don't stop asking those questions. Keep learning, keep learning. For me, with this curriculum, it's been a process, right? I just signed the biggest deal with the curriculum, but it don't just come with the curriculum. Like, you package it, it gives you more opportunity. And ever since I started the speaking situation, ever since I signed up for True Speaking Success, it's just been adding value to what I do. So now when I speak, you can get me as a speaker, you can get me with a book for your students, which is 100 pages long with questions at the end of each thing that you can assess your students on, right? I learned this while I was in school, right? In the school working, like what can make, if I could get a book that kids could finish, kids that hate reading and they could finish it, boom, I win, right? So, because I knew there was a lot of kids that were having trouble reading. And if I could get them to build the confidence of finishing one book, then it'll be done, right? For them to continue reading. So then after that, I saw opportunity for the curriculum. So now people not only just they could choose. And I learned that, like Ariel used to say, give people options when you're trying to create a package. If you give them one package and one price, they're gonna be like, yo, like, I don't want that, that's too much. But if you give them options, right, then you have an opportunity for them to be like, oh, we need that, but oh, this is cheap, this seems better, this fits us. But for me, when I seen that and learned that from Ariel, I was like, I need to create more like stuff for them to choose from. Like,
right, and this is big, man. I want to jump in real quick, Carlos, because I want everyone listening to catch this and what Carlos is saying. Why is this so important? You want to make sure when you're putting your curriculum together, you give an option A, which is like just the curriculum. Yeah. Option B is the curriculum with your book. Option C is the curriculum with your book, with 2 speaking engagements a year, professional development, and something
Boom.
else, right? So you
Yep.
have a small, medium, large. So what happens is that big option is a redonkulous price. That was my $30,000 one, right? Here's 30,000. I didn't expect anyone to actually buy it. I was putting it as what's called the decoy price to make the medium and the small seem more affordable. Now, what I've discovered over and over and over again is you'll be surprised at how many people choose the biggest option. So
Yep.
I would encourage you to have it. And if people choose it, it's cherry on top, but you can package the curriculum so that you say, oh, I'm not just a speaker,
Yeah.
but after I speak, I have this program that stays long after I'm gone, which is a big criticism people might have of, oh, we're paying this person all this money to come in for hour and leave. Oh, no, but you get this program. So it's really smart what Carlos is saying.
That's it. And that's what I learned. Like, I was in PDs. I'm literally talking from myself. I'm sitting in PDs. I'm seeing what these guys are doing. And I'm like, what? And I'm like learning. I'm taking notes. I'm like, yo, that was dope. Or yo, like, what is he doing? Or what is she doing? Right. And I have conversations with them. I don't just like, oh, I'm better than them. Like, or, you know what I mean? I'm like, I'm trying to pick their mind. I'm like, yo, so how do you, and so I built so many connections that way, just so you got to be a learner to this game. If you want to be a true entrepreneur, the learning never stops. You got to keep going. And for me, I'm learning from people that flop, and I'm learning from people that actually do well. It don't matter. It's the same thing, because you can learn something from it. So for me, it's adding value after value after value after value. So you're giving people options, and at the beginning, it's gonna be tough because you just need your thing in. And once you get one school, like I'm telling you, even if you like, I'm gonna keep it real with y'all. My first one, it was at a very discount price, right? It was still in the over 10,000, but I was like, it was more bad. And I even had people in administration like, yo, you could have asked for more, right? But I was at this point, I was like, I need to get it into a school and start getting results. So instead of complaining, what I did was like, okay, you got the discount. I didn't let them know they had a discount, but what I did was, let me get testimonials from this situation. Let me get results when this happens in your discipline chart throughout the year, before you use my curriculum, after you use my curriculum. Boom. Once I get the statistics, the next school, I can be like, yo, this works and this is how it's going to work because the numbers say this. And now I'm going into schools like that. And if you have to at first get the first one in there, you can't be bougie with it. You know what I mean? You can't be bougie, be like, yo, I need my 30 G's. Like, I put my work into it, but nobody gonna believe it until you get the numbers. Numbers don't lie. And once you get the numbers, you can straight up like use it to your advantage. And for me, like, and I had my boy tell me, he was like, my boy that was a teacher in the school, was like, yo, I heard them talking, and they were like, yo, like they could have paid like 30, like close to 40, and you only got them for less than 20. So it's like, yo, you could have asked for way more. And I was like, all right, cool. Now I know. Now it's all about like, all right, how do I get the most out of this school, right? And then so much so that the same school that got the discount the year before paid full price the next year, right? Because they saw the value.
Because they saw the value. And it's one of the things that you'll hear me preach over and over and over again with speaking, and it's the same thing with curriculum. The single best way to market yourself as a speaker is to have people see you speak. There's just nothing better than that. The best way to have a curriculum is to have people experience it and say, oh, wow, the students love this. Think about what you can measure, right? Which is important. So let's talk about the measurement piece, because I think that's really interesting. Because ultimately, a good curriculum will be able to show some type of measurable improvement, better test scores, decreased absenteeism or truancy, increased engagement or something. So talk about how you decided, well, what can I prove? Like, can I say this is because of me? How do I create an assessment that can show my value, so when I go to the next school, it's an easier sale because I've got data?
Listen, and that's a great question, because making assessments for your work is key, because it's like, yo, you got tests for that? Like, how you test that? Like, you know what I mean? Like, people like come at you like, whoa, that's next level, right? So for me, it's like legit making it like a class. Like I made, and literally, and like I said, I know I skimmed over it. My title at this school is the Restorative Power Teacher. I legit am getting paid for something that I created. I am a PE licensed teacher. PE licensed teacher. Let me say that again. And it's all because I just continue to bet on me and continue to work and do what I believed in, right? And do it passionately. That's the main thing. Let's not, you can have the best curriculum ever, but if you can't bet on yourself, it's going to be hard. You got to work on your craft, and and I'm sorry, yeah, PE stands for physical education. And that was the motivation. Like, people used to look at, because I was a big athlete in high school and I played college sports, and this whole jock idea. And even my daughter watches TV now, and like, all the jocks, all the sports guys are dumb, right? Or they're not smart. And I hated that. And that was a motivator for me at a time. I was like, yo, like, I'm the PE teacher at the school. And, people look at you a certain way. They treat you a certain way. And I was like, I'm gonna break that stereotype. Like, that's not true. Like, I am, you know what I mean? So that motivated me. So you have to be able to believe in the work. So like, you can have the best curriculum, but if you can't live it, or you can't go into the school, like, I know for a fact, I can go into a school and do my best to connect where they can see a genuine connection. I might not connect with every student, but I know that they will see a genuine human being that is living his truth. And my curriculum is teaching people how to live their truth. And once again, it's not just for the students. The adults need it more than ever, because a lot of people don't want to go to therapy. And if you get them some type of form of therapy,
Yeah.
fix the game.
Yeah. So then, are you, when you're assessing this and people are going, wow, are you doing pre and post assessments? Are you using
Yeah.
Likert scales? How are you
Yeah.
getting the data for something like you, which is hard to measure?
Yeah. So what I do all types of assessments. I have like my curriculum has multiple choice tests, has essay form, has annotating text, and essay writing. So I just, like, for me, I started it aligning it to ELA standards, right? And ELA is very important, right? How can I help that class, right? A lot of kids don't like to read. A lot of kids don't like to write. Especially now, like more now than ever, like in the schools, kids, like, I give them 2 pages of notes on the board, and these kids complain. I'm like, what? I was used to like 7 in one class, like 2 pages, and y'all crying. And so, like, if you can make that easier, so me seeing that, I'm like, oh, okay, I got it. So most people are probably dealing with this, right? So let me try to make it easier, right? So if you can make a curriculum that aligns to an important class and connect it where a kid can go to that class, enjoy the hell out of it, and then see it easier to annotate text, to articulate a point, and express how they can connect this a piece of text to their own life and be able to put it into a class. Then they walk into the ELA class like a whole new person, spitting game like they never seen before. And that's how I kind of do it. I take what you did in your class and I don't make it as serious. I make it like I'm talking just like this. Like, I feel like I'm kicking game. Like, I kick game, but it's the same thing you're learning there, so that when you go there, you could be like, oh, I know what they're talking about. They just saying it different, So, and that's how I took it. So with the assessments, with the test, I aligned it to a specific class that I can make their job easier. So that what Ariel said at the beginning, we won't be able to cover everything, right? And that's why it's important for you to speak from your experience. I don't want you to create a curriculum just like mine, because it ain't gonna work. Like, my purpose is way greater. Like, there's no way. Like I said, it's in my pocket, it's in my wallet, right? So like that, you can try to create it, you can do, you can do your best version of it, but it still won't be me, right? And I'm very confident that you need to find something that is just you. It don't matter if somebody copies the same thing, they can't be you. And that's how you have to approach your work. Like, and Ariel taught this all the time. This speaking, you should be able to give game out with speaking and your work, right? Even Justin, the whole thing with Justin, right? Like, Justin had no clue about the speaking game. He wanted to get into it. I legit told Justin, meet me at my school. I'm going to a speaking engagement 3 hours away. We're going to drive, get to know each other. You're going to see me do it. And I'm going to kick game the whole time, right? And that's how we built it. And I love Justin. Justin was reminding me of me. He was like, oh, word? Let me get this down. Oh, okay. And I was just like, oh, I like that, right? So he was receptive to everything. But you give out game because it doesn't matter how many people know the game. Because when you step into your own truth and you live your purpose, it is you. So schools need like thousands of speakers, throughout the year, right? So you're gonna be only one, right? But just make sure that you're the only one, right? So your work has to come, like it gotta be that strong, and you gotta go into it like that. So like use your experience, see how you can connect your curriculum, and that's what I'm teaching. I teach you how to create your own thing, not like mine. I'll give you resources where I can teach you how to, like what we said, right? We talked about, the game is there, right? I could like templates. I'm a teacher. I'm in there. I know what works, what doesn't work, what is actually being used. Curriculum outlines, lesson plan templates, unit plan templates, the standards, how to put the standards there, how to open up a lesson plan or a curriculum where you could throw it on in the first couple lines, hit the administrator when they're looking at it, like, oh damn, we need that. I do that, right? And being able to look for those places where you could get that type of information and connect the dots from your own experience will make it transformative. Where your thing will grow. Like it started with speaking. Now we got books. Now we got curriculums, and now you're getting in the door where you have more options to give somebody. And it's gonna make the person's job easier to be like, oh, we don't need that. We have something like that, but we don't have that. We could use that, right? And then you just get, like I tell people all the time, let me just get a toe in the door. That's all I need. I'll bust it.
So let's talk about that toe in the door a little bit more, right? So I know a big question on people's mind is, all right, well, who do I contact? Like who's the person? So talk a little bit about what advice you would give to people for who are the people, maybe in your profession or in profession or industries in specific, who are the people that we need to be contacting to let them know about what we're doing?
Yeah, a lot of people think that it's just the principal. The principal has so much on their plate. School leaders. My boss, I answer straight to her, right? She hired me. She was actually assistant principal at another school where I was the restorative justice coordinator. She created her own school within KIP, and she said, "Yo, I need you to run your class in my school," right? So, but I know that she has so much on her plate, and it's usually the people that work closely with the head, right? So you need one of those on your side, assistant principal, school counselor, social worker at the campus, or someone that's not particularly a decision maker but has influence. Now there are people in that position that don't have as much influence. That's why you need to do your work and to get to know the school. And this I learned through the True Speaking Success, where before you send an email, you should read the whole website of the school you're sending it to. You should see the words that they're using, what their mission is, what they're trying to create, right? You do that work and you find those people that's actually doing the work. Find somebody with a title that connects to what you're trying to do. Or like for me, SEL, social emotional learning, who deals with that? Is it a teacher running a class? Is it a guidance counselor? Is it a program director? Is it, whoever? And for me, it starts with building that relationship. And then that person, if it's not the person that can do it, they always can connect you to somebody else. And it just continues. You got to work up the chain and keep going. And if you really want to be successful in anything, you got to be willing to take your lumps. You got to get used to them no's. You got to get used to the, like, not me, or not someone, I don't deal with those type of decisions. And and listen, that's the thing what Ariel was saying, and what made more money for me. You have to be willing to invest in yourself. For me, I did a lot of things for free just because I knew if I could get a decision maker in the building, I can bet on myself to do a presentation with staff or students and then connect with the person after and do the work. And if I don't win, I learn something from that engagement or that interaction with the decision maker. And I ask those questions: what would have worked? Like, okay, I understand, but what, what are schools actually needing, right? So you have to do that work constantly, and then you get better. There's no losing. especially if you want to be successful in this game. And that's something I learned from Ariel, and that's what I continue to do. So it's all about networking and sending those emails with the right verbiage and looking how you can, best way, the title should definitely have something that they need, right? And then once you get a communication back, all I need is one answer back. If I get a one answer back, we going back and forth. This last deal took me 5 months. But that 5 months of struggle and me sitting there with my wife, like, damn, man, I've been working hard and I don't want to give up. I was close to it, kept going, and boom, it came through right before 2021, right? And it's the biggest deal, right? For the curriculum and for the PDs and all that. And, you know what I mean? It's something that we need to condition ourselves to do. I think David Goggins said it, you need to callous your mind, right? To build calluses in your mind. I love that, right? He's pretty extreme. He's not for everybody, but yeah, this dude is intense as hell. But I think that's what we need to do with our own personal experience. We need to build them lumps. We need to continue to get in there and ask those questions. And I think for me, yes, I've gained some success in the work. I was able to make impact and all that, but it all started with me seeing someone that can help me, asking those questions, and then getting to a point, like, remember, I dodged Ariel for like a year and a half. And the moment I invested, life changed. I'm literally holding a book that I wrote in 3 months with just investing in myself, right? And then that created more impact and led me to building my own thing, right? So everybody is able to do that, but you just need to be steered in the right way and have the right people in your corner to, help you out and let you know. But you got to keep asking and find those people.
Yeah, one of the things that I like, one of the things that I really care about is whenever you hear a word you don't know. So Carlos was talking, he's always trying to listen and listen. So whenever I hear words like, oh, non-cognitive skills, my past self would be like, man, I don't know what that means. I'm not going to say anything. My current self is like, well, tell me more. What does that mean? Why do you care about it? So now I'm never going to go up to a kid and be like, hey, I'm going to teach you non-cognitive skills today. They're not going to like get it. But if I'm speaking to an educator and I use the term non-cognitive skills, if I'm speaking to the right people, that's like insider lingo. So I want you to pay attention. If there's anything Carlos is saying that you don't get, that's insider lingo. You want to understand this because it's going to help you put together content that can make the decision maker say yes.
Yeah, and that's big. And listen, what I've learned personally from building my own curriculum, it made me better and more ready to speak or to do PDs or to run engagements or run programming, right? Building your own curriculum will allow you to understand both sides. You will know the verbiage for the adults that can make decisions or whatever, and you know how to kick the same game to a student using a whole different lingo, right? But it's the same thing. And me building my curriculum has helped me to like walk in the room and be like, yo, I'm saying the same thing 2 different ways in 2 different corners of the room. And that is transformative.
Right. And that's what I love about that idea of like when you use the term translating, right? Because you're saying the same thing, but you're saying it so the kids can get it, the students can get it, and you're saying it so the administrators can get it, but they're getting the same thing.
Exactly.
So when we look at this, semester, right? So let's say for easy math, 3 months, 1 module per week, that's 12 lessons, 30 to 45 minutes so they can fit it within the class period so that it's useful for them. If I'm putting something like that together, what would you argue is the entry level price range, and what is possibly towards the top of the price range that someone might be able to get for something that handles a semester, 12 weeks, 1 session, 30 to 45 minutes per?
Yeah. So lowest level I would say is $15K for the curriculum alone, right? You could definitely get a curriculum if you do something that's a semester long. And what I tell people all the time, more is better. And if you're really passionate about your work, why are you only aiming for 1 semester? You should be aiming to like build, like, I'm so passionate about it. I'm selling a high school curriculum and I'm working with high schools. I am working as an elementary teacher at KIPP and I'm building another curriculum for elementary students. And this school is going to build out to high school. The content that I'm creating is going to continue to go. If you're very passionate about it, you will want to continue building it, right? So we can say, hey, I just want to get something to make more money. That's not the right way to go about it. You should find something. Your niche should be something that it's in your wallet. I'm gonna keep going back to that. It's in your wallet. You could pull it out and it'll make you emotional, and you could just be like, yo, I got this. And this is what I do, right? Because it's not about me. It's bigger than me, right? I'm doing this like I'm representing, my father, like my daughter's watching. Like I want my daughter to have, like what my dad used to tell me, you got to be better than me. I want my daughter to be better than me, right? And it should continue, right? So you should have something that moves you so much so, right, that you would just continue to go. Content ain't a problem for you because you're talking about your passion. And if it ain't your passion, if you can't continue to go, it don't make no sense, right? You're doing the wrong thing, right? So you need to find something that's passionate to you. So a semester long, a year long, 2 year, build it out. It's going to take time. Start off with building a couple weeks of lesson plans, then continue to go until you got a whole year's worth. And then, you know what I mean? But 15, you can go up to in person with the curriculum and offering PDs and all that. It could go up to 40,000, right? With virtual, this is the test. It took me 5 months because it was all, and this is the best thing that happened was this whole virtual thing. What it really made me and Ariel probably can attest to this too, it made me have to be way more creative. I had a curriculum for in person, and I sold this curriculum for in person, right? And it worked because, and the principal told me when she was arguing why the curriculum wasn't worth it because I wasn't there. She was like, I love what you do, and I don't know how it's going to work with you not being here, right? Or just being on screens, right? That was the biggest fight. And the same school that purchased the big one, it just took time, and me adding more value, and me being more creative, and me offering more and explaining it more and explaining it better, right? Like what part of the curriculum you can help or how can you assist, right? And seeing what they need, right? Like for the school, virtually, they were having problem with connection, right? So how can you do that? Oh, it's not just doing engagements, it's sitting in cohort meetings, right? Dealing with student behaviors on campus. And that's a private meeting with 2 other people that deal with that, right? Oh, I can do that. I'll offer that. Yeah, that's a part of the package now, right? So you have to be creative and see the needs of the school, right? So that takes time. So 15, just getting yours in and just knowing that people have 15, right? Easy, right? And that's low. 25 for a curriculum should be going easy, right? When you get up to 40s and more, you got to have some stuff up your sleeve. You got to be able to fix a whole big hole in their building. Like their building is collapsing, and you have the materials to make sure to rebuild and make sure that thing don't fall down. And you got to be very passionate to get there. And I'm getting there with it. And the crazy thing is, once you build a curriculum, I had built so much networking in this school. An administrator that hired me that got me in the door, got my toe in the door, and I did the rest to get my curriculum purchased. He went off and became an assistant principal at another school. The next year, I worked with the new assistant principal and this other school that they're doing. Then I build more connection, and then somebody else leaves. Boom, they go to another school, and it grows and grows and grows. So your curriculum can give you results about your work, can make you more serious about it because you understand it better, right? Not only that they know that you have material, but you know you have material. You know it's valuable. Sitting down and doing a curriculum, which I can teach you how to do, and very simplistically, can help you understand your work better to the point where anybody can ask you a question on the spot and you got it. Because it's like, this is what I do. Yeah. It's in my wallet.
So Carlos, let's do this. We're gonna, in a little bit, open up for questions, and I'm gonna see, what kind of questions folks have, and we'll be able to answer the things that we didn't cover. But for those folks that are like, okay, I really know I have my why, I have something I'm passionate about, I know that I have great information that can fill gaps, and they really, really want to bring this to life and speed it up. Why don't you tell folks about the cool thing that we talked about in the beginning, that you'll help walk people through and give them your templates and give them all of the information you've created for your stuff that they can use to model?
Yes, yes, yes. So with Ariel, like I said, I dodged this guy for a year and a half, and I'll keep going back to it because I don't want to seem like these guys that, you know what I mean? I was that person. I was like, I already know this stuff. I don't need that. In 3 months, I was able to write a book. I never thought I could write a book. It wasn't even in my mind. Once I joined the group and I saw he had a segment to write a book, I was like, why not? He got the steps right there. He making it easy. I followed the steps and I wrote a book in 3 months. And then everything started going from there. Once I wrote a book, I was able to build my confidence and build curriculum. It's like, oh, that's nothing. I already wrote a book, right? Once you do something the first time, it becomes easier. So things become easier. My whole mind opened up. So with that, what I'm offering, right? I'm taking what I learned from Ariel and I'm doing it in the curriculum space, right? I have lesson plan templates. I have curriculum outlines. I know how to build it out. I have everything. It's implemented within schools with results. I am offering a training all of January to start. In the future, I'll run more, but this is my pilot one because I want to give back, just like Ariel was able to give back to me and change my life and open up my perspective in whole different ways. I'm a student of his, and I've built my thing where I want to give back to those who are serious about it, right? And if you're not, it's okay. Maybe it'll come back in a year and a half if you dodging or whatever. I understand. I get it. Go do your thing, find out, and then when you're ready, come back. But for those who are serious, who are right there on the cusp, don't know how to really develop a curriculum and go down to the nits and grits of it, of verbiage and all that, I break it down to the point. I give you the material. You will have all the templates. We will go each session. I'm running 4 sessions in January on every Tuesday, the 5th, the 12th, the 19th, and the 26th of January. And we're running through everything, every step, every little thing that'll get you in the door and build your knowledge on your own work. I don't want you to build a restorative power program. If you are in restorative practices, yes, I want you to build yours, but I want whatever field you're in, I can help you build a curriculum so that you can get it in the door, and not only so schools can use it, but for you to know, be more knowledgeable of your own work, right? And then go from there. So we're doing like I said, lesson plan templates, how to structure it to 30 to 45 minutes, how to backwards plan. That's something as a teacher, 10 years of teaching experience. I have 10 years of lesson planning from, from scratch. And once again, I am at one of the toughest charter schools or well-known charter schools across the country, KIPP, where I'm running my own class as a restorative power teacher. So here's an example. I built my curriculum, and I was not only able to become a better speaker and get speaking engagements and connect with more people, I was given an opportunity to become a teacher in my own lesson. There's no licensing for what I do. I am a physical education teacher, licensed teacher, right? And I'm running a restorative power class. Kids in my class had told me, there was this kid that said, yo, you're my favorite restorative power teacher ever. I was like, I think I'm the only one. This class doesn't exist anywhere else, right? So you have the power to do that, right? Not only it can open up so many doors for you to get into and build your work and become more knowledgeable. So we're starting this in January. Whoever's serious about it, it's a one-time payment, and we'll go over that. Ariel, do you want me to go over everything now, or
Yeah,
are we gonna?
I'll put the link in the chat for anybody who wants to check out the page, and you can go over more detail.
Yeah, and this is how I know everybody's serious right now, because there's so much. We're on break. A lot of us have full-time jobs and all that. I know the Laker game about to start. I'm a huge basketball head, so like this is commitment right here. It's bigger, right? So you being here is enough, and pushing yourself and showing me something. But what I'm offering for the 4 sessions, you will be getting lesson plan templates, curriculum outline templates, unit plan templates. I will go over mine and show you how I did mine. I will show you what's important, how to build a mission statement, how to build your purpose and put it into words where someone can see it and be like, oh, that's what I need in my school. That's what I need for my program, right? And also I created a Facebook group, a private group that'll be exclusive to everybody that invests in themselves, called the CTP, Curriculum Translation Program, CTP. As Ariel said, everything is translated. So I'm going to help you translate your work into a curriculum that can be used across the country and possibly become a teacher at it, right? Who knows, right? Run a program on it. But I'm offering this for one-time payment under Ariel's True Speaking Success for $4.99 on the website. I think he sent the link. It does seem like a lot for those who are on the scale or whatnot, but like I said, if you think about it, you pay for this, you build your program, and then you get a deal for 15,000, 20,000, 30,000, which is completely capable. And you have someone that from now on you can call on and ask questions and be in a group where we can understand what we're missing, right? A network which you're building that has helped me being a part of the True Speaking Success has changed the game for me, where people were asking questions that I had, and then I see Ariel answer it on the group, and I'm like, oh, damn, okay, I'm gonna use that, right? And I'm gonna keep going and add it on to my repertoire, right? So all of that will be offered to you and given to you so that you can build your own thing and find your own impact. So the first session, we will be going in January 5th, Tuesday at 8 o'clock. And what we're going to be doing to start it off is how to find your mission statement for your curriculum, how to find your purpose, your why, right? And how to break that down into your curriculum with the verbiage. Then we're going into, so backwards planning is where you start from the bottom and then you work your way up, right? So you do the outlines and everything, and then we get down to the lesson plan. Everybody thinks it's like, and that's how you get stuck. You start with the big picture, doing everything all at once, and then you get confused and overwhelmed, and then you break down with lesson plans, right? But if you start from the mission and then breaking down what you're trying to accomplish in those lessons, right? And then break it down as simplistic as possible for you to understand it, and then have kids understand it, right? And it'll be able to be easy to do that. And I'm here to teach those steps and guide you to be able to build it and be as a helping hand for everybody to do it. Like I said, everybody's capable of doing it. I saw a gap that needed to be filled, and I didn't understand why it wasn't filled. And I said, why not? And I believe more people should be out there, because at the end of the day, there might be somebody that needs something that needs to be put in schools and doesn't and can't have access to you in particular. But if you get your work out there, you can change lives without even being there, because your work is getting out there. And that's what I believe my curriculum is doing. So more people like my father don't feel alone like he felt, right? And feel like they can have a way to express themselves. And it's not labeled as therapy or labeled as something that people don't like to go to or don't want to be labeled or extra support, right? Because it's normalized within the school culture, right? You could create something like that, whether it's financial literacy and creating a curriculum for that, which is much needed in high school. I have conversations with kids all the time, like, why don't we learn about taxes? Why don't we learn about money? And if you create something that's fun, that's understanding, easy to learn within a class that aligns to standards within classrooms that you can offer to a school or a program which can help them, right? You can create something that's great, right? So like I said, once again, Ariel sent the link, and this is bigger than me. This should be bigger than you, right? You're investing in yourself so that you can have more impact and reach more people, because that's what it's about. And for me, that's what I learned, because it didn't start like that. To be completely transparent, I was all about me. But as you go through life, you experience and you learn, hey, it has to get to a point where it's not about you and it's bigger than you, right? And being able to invest in yourself. And that's something that I learned to do. It's not just like, oh, that's too much money. It's like, okay, big picture, right? How do I make this into something? If I could get the game and cut off a couple years learning this stuff, or cut off a lot of like extra work, right, where you got everything given to you and then you can learn it, yes, I can make double, I can make triple. And that's what I can uh, promise you to be able to get to, right? Skip a lot of steps to create something. And then, you know, the sky's the limit from there.
Very cool. Very cool. So thank you, Carlos. So for anyone who wants to see the link, you put in the link, you'll be able to get access to it. You'll get access to the Facebook group, to the group coaching calls, you get access to his templates, and literally you'll get the support from the group that even when the coaching calls end, the group will still be together. So as people are developing and putting things together, you can make it happen. So
Yeah.
I highly encourage you to check that out, to look into it. And again, you just go to the link that is in the chat. I'm going to post it in there one more time. Let me find it. There it is. So go there, get it, and you'll be in a great place. So what I want to do now is open up a couple of questions that I'm seeing in the chat. And Loopy, I see your question about breaking it down into payments. I'll connect with you post. So right now it's just one payment for simplicity. But if there's anyone who's like, yo, I definitely do it, but maybe you need to break it up into two payments or something,
When it works out.
yeah, shoot me a message. We'll figure out something to make it happen. But for right now, that's what it is. Next question. Um, and I may say this wrong, Cheyenne. Do you start with weekly, then monthly, and then semester-based curriculum, and the minimum amount being 15K? When you're looking at that approach, what do you feel like is the best approach in terms of building out the curriculum before you consider it done?
Yeah, that's what I'm going to help you do. And I think that's where people get overwhelmed. As a teacher, you have to do lesson plans every week, right? And then when you're thinking too far down the line and thinking like, how much do I need to get it? Like, it needs to be a test out, right? You need to just start, right? And how do you start? How do you properly start? And once you properly start it and start understanding what it takes to make a good curriculum, a good lesson, backwards planning, start small, right? Once you learn how to do the basics of doing it right, then it becomes easier to take an idea that you get from an experience in your life and be like, oh, that could be a lesson. If only that was in the class, boom, let me go home. Now I got the tools, boom, boom. Hey, Carlos, I forgot, what should I do about? Oh, I got the answer, boom, boom, boom. And then you put it into a lesson, right? And then it goes to from there into, like what we talked about with the book, right? With Ariel, what I learned. You're not going to sit there and write a whole book. I wrote a book in 3 months, not sitting down. I was walking around, I would experience something in a class, and I swear to God, the next moment I had a break, I was writing it down. Or I would jot it down and take a note while I was after it happened. And then when I get a break, I'm writing it down. And that's how a lesson has to be. It needs to be from personal experience. That's how you make it from your passion, right? That's how you connect. And that's how it's super genuine. Like people will feel that. And you got to be able to create something that you can feel, and then you know that people can feel because it's real, right? It can't be something that you're thinking like, oh, I think this would be good. I don't know how that feels. I don't know how that would be if someone went through that, but I think that'll be good because this person needs it. Don't do that. It should be like, oh, I felt that. I went through that. I know what that is. I know that's a need, right? And then connect it to what a need that a school has. Now, with that, you're going to have a lot of schools that do not need what you have or what you have to offer. That's okay. You need to keep moving to the next one till you find one that aligns to you. All you need is one. Once you get one, it becomes easier for you to start building your confidence and understanding how to have these conversations with these people, right? On yourself. That you'll have me, you'll learn the tricks and all that. But like I had Ariel, but I had to like figure it out by myself. Like I had to like have those personal experiences to connect the dots.
Yep. And Carlos, thank you for that. And when folks are putting together, I know you have your lesson plans and your structures because it's very important to understand it's not just putting a lesson plan together. You have to understand, what are the materials you need for the lesson plan? What's the hook? What are
Exactly.
the objectives? There's certain language, and there's a certain flow you want to make sure you're addressing. But one of the questions that I received is, well, what exactly is the curriculum? Are you handing them a workbook? Are you handing them a series of videos? Is it a combination thereof? Any suggestions on what the actual curriculum it is that you're handing over to the school to have access to?
Talking about like what, so what are they getting, right? So
What are they physically getting?
yes, they're getting a curriculum with, if, let me see if I can I share my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Let me try to get the curriculum here so you guys can see an outline of it. Let me pull it up. Give me a second here. I noticed area up his and I didn't show mine, and I'm talking about.
Yeah, so as he's pulling that up, I want you to remember that ultimately one of the big piece of advices from curriculum that was given to me when I created mine is you want to put together your content so that the teacher, the person who is going to implement it, if it's not a deal in which you're the one implementing it, they have everything they need to be you. So if you were going to take, say, Peter and clone him and put him into the classroom to do this particular event for, 30 minutes, what's the setup? What are all the little things that you do? Is there music that's playing? What kind of music are you playing? Do you have supplies? What supplies do you need beforehand? Is there a joke that you're telling? Is there a game you're playing? How do you play out the game? What do you do? How does this tie to that? So you want to create that. Now, that might be in video form, that might be supplemented with PDFs, breaking it down. It could have template PowerPoints. So you want to think about what's everything I could give someone so they have the playbook to execute this well. So I encourage you to look at what it would take to create that clone and create it.
I'm having trouble sharing my screen right now.
Not letting you, hold on. Try right now.
Let's see that.
Hit share screen now and then try desktop. Oh wait, hold on 1 second. I might know what I did. Hold on. Hold on 1 second. Did I do? Hold on. Okay, try it now.
Let's see.
Did I sharing it?
I'm trying to, let me see.
Okay.
I'm sorry for everybody that is waiting so long, but here it is. So what you need to do to get in the door of the school, you need to make it tangible, right? So as you're opening, there's a curriculum narrative, right? And it breaks down what the class entails, right? On the top, it tells you how long it will be. It will tell you what is entailed in the curriculum, right? And then it breaks down what they will be doing, right? So if you go up a little bit, Ariel, so where it says, so it lists right here, like draws connections between justice of harms and the school to prison pipeline. So things like that, you're breaking down what the kids are learning in the class and what they're going to be doing, right? Then you have essential questions, like what are these, what are the questions that are going to be asked, right? So you're answering a lot of questions to the person that's opening this up. So when they have access to a curriculum, a written curriculum, right? Now you could take a written curriculum, which I've done this year, and that's the tricky part with virtual, which I know how to do. I did a physical curriculum, right? Where people could have in their hands or do it digitally and copyright it. I seen somebody ask that question online, so definitely copyrighted. This is copywritten, and that is yours, right? And they get that once they purchase it, right? And then within this, they have lesson plans, they have unit plans where it's broken down to a T. So if Ariel, you could go down a little bit, right? So here are the standards, how it all connects. So you see the first one has the code and tells you college readiness and study skills. Boom, right? Then the next one, public speaking, right? And which one they're targeting. The first one says students read widely for a variety of purposes from numerous sources and cultures, right? So these are specifically aligned to ELA TEKS or standards, right? Out here in Texas, they call them standards. They call them TEKS. So you're aligning them, right? And if you go down a little more, right? So you put text that they'll be using. And then here's the thing, if you have your own text, you can put your own text into the curriculum, which I have, right? As a resource and something that they can use to further the work, right? And you make lessons around that. Oh, so we have this lesson, we should use the book. Boom, right? And then here's the important part, having formative and summative assessments. Some people on the outside that aren't in education don't even know that these things exist. What are these? What does that entail? Exit tickets. Exit tickets can be quizzes at the end of the day, right? That are very formative about the information that they learned that day, right? So formative are things they learned that day. So it's not a, a whole test about like, what are you learning in the class, right? And then you have summative. I have projects, right, that I've created, like life maps and the pyramid. I do this thing that I learned from my wife, and I wrote it in my book, the pyramid of success. Everybody makes their pyramid, and the higher you go up, the less space you have, right? And that means you need to make sure the most important is the one that you have no space for, right? And as you go down, you have more space. So you create, I can help you create content that can be seen in the school as valuable, because these are things that are teaching kids time management, right? Like the life maps, they are, and I also got this learned from my wife. My wife is an amazing educator, and me being around that, I've learned so much as well. Where she did this thing where they had the kids talk about life events in their life and break it down, right? And then you do it, and then you do an art piece where you give them creative flexibility. Some kid drew a face and tears, and on the right side were happy tears, on the left side were sad tears, and they talk about, I learned how to ride a bike with my dad here, I lost my dad here, boom, boom, boom. And boom, you make it anonymous, and you make a presentation in the school, and boom, you're learning kids going through things without having a sit down with the kids. You just saved the guidance counselor and the dean some long time off of just trying to get to know the kid, where you like, oh, this kid's going through something, or we should support this kid like this, boom, without them having to let everybody know that was me, right? Boom. So I'm saving time with that, right? And if Ariel, you can just go to the last part of it with the unit plan, so, and then you can see that.
Carlos, you gotta keep something a secret, man. I'm gonna step in. I'm gonna be like, Carlos, you give us so much. All of this is in the program.
I try. You see, that's what I mean. Like, like I'm telling you, I'm willing to give it to you so you can create your thing. So, as Ariel said,
but all of these templates and all of this is laid out, so you'll show people you have to have this, you have to have this, you have to structure it so that they can create it.
It's not and this is what I mean, like, it's bigger than me. I can share my stuff. You can go ahead and copy it, but I know that it's me, right? And nobody can recreate me. So that's how you gotta be passionate about your stuff. And like I said, like, I'm probably, as Ariel said, you're oversharing. Like, I'm so passionate about it. And that's how I will be in this program, and trying to give you guys as much as possible so you can build your own thing.
Yeah. So when you were looking at pricing and you were talking about that, like, kind of 10, 15K starting point, was that the feedback that was given to you, or is that something that you kind of figured out along the way?
I figured out along the way, like having communication with people in my field, figuring out what's a need, what's the budget for that, who's dealing with that. So that's a lot of the stuff that I learned through your program, right? Learning that stuff. And then I just specified it to what I'm doing, right? So I look for the restorative justice stuff. Is that a thing? Do they have a budget for that? Who runs that? Is that an interest? Okay, who do I talk to make it a thing if it is an interest, right? These are all different avenues. And that's something that you can learn how to do through Ariel's True Speaking Success content. For me, it's specifically how to build your own curriculum with details and the resources. So you just saw my curriculum outline. You're going to get that empty. And then in the meetings, I'm going to tell you what to write in those things, right? So that was the curriculum outline. You'll get lesson plan templates, you'll get unit plan templates, you'll get all of that empty to you. And those are the ones that KIPP and most of these big time schools use right? And KIPP is well known. KIPP has like over 500 schools in the country. So what they use is well known. Usually when I tell people I work at KIPP, people are like, oh, right? So you getting these type of lesson plans aligned to standards makes it look good. Now, what you put in it is what I'm going to help you be able to catch the eyes of those people to be like, oh, damn, it looks good and it sounds good. Like, that's crazy. We really need that, right? So that's what I'm offering to help you be able to do and get everything you need so that you can build it and you know what to do so that I don't have to be there. So by the end of these 4, you will have me as support. But my main goal is that you don't need me because you have everything you need from these 4 sessions, right, in January. And you could walk away and be like, oh, damn, like, I remember when he said this, or I have this, how do I build this out, blah, blah. You can't skip no steps. So if you're trying to really build a curriculum and legit, right, and make real impact, not make money, money will come, make real impact, you will learn every step, everything you need so that you can build it out and be, you know what I mean, as best in your field or your topic as possible.
Now, one of the questions we have from Jessica here is, would this apply for other agencies, such as sexual exploitation, abuse,
Yes,
those kind of things,
yes,
social justice? Right.
yes. So especially in social justice, I learned, so I align my things, as I was telling you, Ariel, I align my stuff, my high school curriculum to ELA standards. I got hired as a restorative power teacher to run my own class, right? And I discovered the principal said, hey, have you ever heard of these social justice standards? Oh, they have social justice standards? And I connected those to my work, right? So there are programs, there are standards for everything. You just got to find it and find what you really need to find is, what does yours connect to? What does yours, what subject can you help with your work mainly to get into the schools and programs? Now, I've worked with programs, and what I did too, when you build a curriculum, guess what you have? Content. I legit, they did not have the funds. I knew they didn't have the funds, but I really wanted to work with this group of kids, right? It was a boys group. And what I did was like, hey, I'll give you, in addition to speaking engagements, I'll give you 5 lesson plans that will be most impactful for you to build. So you don't have to use your whole curriculum. Now, 15,000 to a small program will be like, yo, he bugging. Like, why is that so much? Then, but you have to know, if you learn the steps through Ariel's program, True Speaking Success, you would know that you have to look through the budgets. You have to find who has the money. You have to find who's to speak to, right? Once you find that out, you can have more confidence going into the meeting. You know what your value, you know what you offer. You have so much you can offer. Now, if you have a curriculum, there's a lot of content you have. You can legit be like, I'll give you 3 lesson plans with a speaking engagement, with 2 speaking engagements and some staff support or some group support. And I've done that, and that's worked. And that was less than the 15,000. And it wasn't my whole curriculum, but they have a piece. And now from that, I also got a bigger deal because the group that got a piece, right? Someone else saw the piece and they're like, oh, we should give more of that. So they got a little taste, and now they wanted the whole meal. They got the appetizer, then they got the whole meal, and you put yourself in a whole much better situation. Now, with that, you have to be able to continue to create content. And that should excite you to be like, yo, they're learning my stuff. It's something that it can actually help. And that's why you got to be passionate about your own experiences and make it you, right? And that's what I can help you get to.
So we have, like, I mean, we're coming up on 2 hours here, so we're going pretty hard. So if you haven't looked at the time, this is 2
Doesn't even
hours.
feel like 2 hours.
This is a master class. Okay, this is literally shaving off confusion. This is shaving off what are my next steps. This is shaving off who do I contact. This is shaving on how do I package it. What are they looking for? Where do I look for it? Stuff that can take you literally a lifetime, because if you don't know the right questions, you can't get the right answers. And this literally is the tip of the iceberg of making it work for you. Because I can promise you, in the same way, Michael Jordan could teach you how to shoot a jumper, unless you can have someone making sure your elbow's actually tucked in to make sure you're actually flicking your wrist. You may go, I'm doing everything he told me to do, but it's like, oh, just flick your wrist when you shoot. There's a Carlos played basketball, so I'm using basketball
Yeah,
analogy.
yeah, yeah.
You're supposed to like hit the rim with your fingers and touch it. But if you don't see someone showing that, you might miss some things. So I would encourage you to really, if this is something really, the gooseneck. Thank you, John. If you're really interested in it, $500 to create the content is really child's play compared to one contract that you could get. And the other thing I'll say, and I just want to repeat it because college drops a lot of gems, and I want to make sure you don't miss them. You can take the curriculum and take, say, just a portion of it, one thing, and give it away on the back end of a speaking engagement and say, hey, as a bonus, I want to give this. This is part of something bigger that I have, but I'd love to give it to you for free because I think it would be very useful. And if it's really good, it's a great way to get people to say, yo, that was amazing. Is there more? Well, yes, there is. And then it's a way to engage people in conversation. So there's a lot of opportunity, I think, for you to leverage it beyond just the curriculum itself. It becomes a value add. If you care about a after school program and they have no funds and you love what they're doing, you can give it to them. And I think I do a lot of free stuff still because I generally care about this work, and it's not just about the money. I enjoy the money, but it really is about making a difference, as Carlos has reiterated. So I want you to really take into consideration, is this for you? Is this something that you want to do? If it is, I'm going to put in the chat, head over to the link, get involved in that, and realize there's a lot of opportunity. And I would argue, and I would make this argue, no one can predict the future. I definitely cannot, but I spend a lot of time trying to learn patterns and learn things. In the same way, when the stock market dropped back in March 17, I got mad hype and started buying a bunch of stock, because in the 47-year history of the stock market, when it's hit record low, it's always hit record high, and this time was no different. So here's why I'm saying that. There's patterns. Our entire nation has gone through trauma in 2020: social, racial, health, mental health, physical health, all over the board. I am predicting that in 2021, it's going to be a slingshot, where we've been pulled back for so long that if we can get this vaccine to work, if we can get this curve to flatten, you're going to see so much need for the stuff you do that's outside of math and science alone. It's about that whole student is going to need a whole lot of support. So I think schools are going to be seeing that challenge. I literally just got a 5-figure contract. Well, the verbal commitment for it. We got the verbal today, but I'm pretty confident we're going to get the written, because they're saying we're dealing with students who are dealing with identity issues because they're athletes and they can't play sports anymore. And they used to hang out with friends and they can't do that. We're dealing with socio-emotional challenges. We need you to come in and do something. I know that stuff's going to keep happening more and more. So I would say to you all that if you are interested in this, the timing is on your side, because people are going to want it and they're going to need it because of everything that's happening. And this is, to my knowledge, there's no one else that's doing what Carlos is doing. I've been in the industry for about 15 years. So I think if this is something that's passionate to you, definitely get connected to that. It's really powerful. So quick question. I saw one question come in here. If you have any other questions, please drop it off. Do you have, does this translate to the college level? Someone was saying, I know you're doing a lot of stuff, elementary, secondary.
And you know this person, Benny from
Yeah.
yeah. So I've been working with Benny. I was gonna speak at his school, Lemoyne, right before the pandemic,
I
and we
wish you
had
would have,
help.
man. Damn, I
I
wish.
know, but he moved over to Canisius.
Yeah, he's a buff.
And I'm working with him to go in. He's using parts of my curriculum to work with his students, his cohort, and his staff. So it is definitely something that colleges need as well. I'm working with SUNY Cortland, where they're using parts of it as well. I've been working with in the college realm as well. So your curriculum, like I said, that's where you can use your curriculum to your advantage, right? It will build so much content that you will be able to offer anybody more stuff, right? Be like, hey, like I can give you here, this section here, or this section there, right? Or right? Parts of your curriculum, right? And it just helps you understand your content more to a point where you feel like you could service more people in need in your field.
For sure. And Janae asked a quick question. When you're looking at that 15K number, is that someone else implementing it, or is that you coming in to implement the actual curriculum?
They they it was a package where it started with, like I said, the discount, right, that I got. What I've learned now, you could legit just sell a curriculum without adding stuff to it for 15,000, 10 to 15,000, right? Um, now that depends on the length, what kind of gap you're filling, right? So that's specific.
Right.
But what I did was I gave like PDs and a couple speaking engagements to the students. So I did professional development with staff and the students. They purchased my book and they got the curriculum. So and that was just me. Like I needed, like I said at the beginning, I needed mine to get in the door, get results. And then I got results from them, got testimonials, and I used that information to get my next deal. Right. And that's what you need to look at. But like I said, 15 to about 30. Like I said, if you're like amazing and you can fill a huge gap, the building is on fire and you can rebuild it and you can go up to 40, right? But it's going to take time to get there. You need more and more content. Start
So,
doing that.
so at that 15, are you saying, hey, teachers, here is the curriculum, you teach it, and then you're doing like 3 or 4 PDs throughout the year? Or are
Exactly.
you coming in once a week to teach it yourself?
No. You're not coming in once a week. No. That's just good. Thank you for specifying that. No. So basically, you create the curriculum. It's basically you do speaking engagements, and then for them to get your content to keep going, the curriculum is there.
And the curriculum is what the teachers are using in the
Using
homeroom,
their
in
to
the,
continue the work. Yes.
correct.
So you do a speaking engagement. So these are for my speakers in the room, right? You do a speaking engagement. You do a PD, a professional development. And then teachers say, how do you continue doing this? Well, here you go. You just fill the gap, right? Now you can do it. And I tell administrators this, and I've been working with administrators. I do my lessons so much so that if the teacher's struggling, that can help the administrator find a way to support that teacher. Or it can help you understand maybe this teacher isn't right for the job. That's how, because my work makes you have to walk the walk, right? So if they can't walk the walk or they're having difficulty, right? That's a conversation that administrator can do and can have with the staff. So it actually helps, right? I'm filling the gap not only for your students, I'm filling the gap for your staff, so you can build the best staff that you can build for the community you're serving, right?
Awesome. Well, Carlos, you have been more than generous with your time, with your experience, with your knowledge. It is not often that there is a man with a bald head and a beard who is just the man. And you know what? I'd like to say I copied your look, man. So I had hair when you first met me, and I said, you
Yes,
know what? If Carlos is bald and got a beard, I'm gonna have my struggle COVID beard, and I'm gonna
I appreciate
go
that.
bald too. You know.
I seen somebody on the Facebook was like, look like big brother, little brother. I was like, but I had the baldy first
Yeah, the
though.
baldy first. I'm gonna acknowledge that. I accepted my hairline way too late. So, but listen, Carlos, thank you. Honestly, I promise you, for anyone who's been looking at curriculums or looking at creating it, this is a masterclass that you just got. This was not held back. And I promise you, if you think this is good, this is the tip of the iceberg, because what really matters, and I want to stress this, is your ability to do something with this. One of the things I would say on my podcast, and I really believe it, is that this information won't help you in any way. It's not going to translate into success. The implementation of this information
Mhm.
will. But if you don't implement it, and if you go, oh, this was cool, but, or, oh, I'm going to get to this next week, sometimes you have to say, if I'm committed, you know, sign up. One of the best piece of advice that someone gave me, I was talking about, oh, I'm thinking about doing a marathon, all that stuff. He said, sign up for one. He's like, thinking about doing it is not the same as signing up for one. Because when you sign up for one, you're sending out to the universe, I'm ready. In the same way, Carlos was saying he didn't get the TSS system, true speaking system, and he's dodging. I'm gonna do. The moment he signs up for it, he gets a bigger speaking engagement. He
Yeah.
finishes his book in 3 months. There's something about declaring to the universe, declaring to God, I am this. I am creating this in the world, not in thought, but in action, that creates this vibration, that creates opportunities you didn't even know about. Like, I can't wait to see the people who say, I went through this program, I finished it, I got my first one sold. It's amazing. And what always happens is, and this is my human nature experience, there's a group of people who are going to go, oh, this is cool. I'll wait on it. Let me see what happens. And then what happens is they see other people lapping them because they
Mhm.
sat on the bench and they said, well, I don't want to jump out there because maybe I don't trust myself, or maybe I don't trust if my content's good, or maybe I don't trust Carlos, whatever it might be. What I can tell you is, Carlos is not holding anything back. I mean, hopefully that's clear from today. It's not like this is going to be some program that tries to upsell you into some platinum plutonium program after it's over, right? Like, this is the program. And I can tell you, and I told this to Carlos, this $499, there's no way he should ever do this again for $499. Because if one contract is, 15,000, and my investment is $499 up front, and I'm getting the game, it's literally a 10x opportunity. So, with the value, the value will go up. So for anyone who's thinking about waiting, the one thing I will tell you is, if and when Carlos does this again, there's no way he's going to be doing it at this rate. This is for the founding members. These are for the people who are saying, I want to get started. I want to trust in him. And by trusting in him, you're getting this break. So if you come back next time and it's, 4 times the price, that's the risk for not taking action now. So I'm just gonna lay that out there as a parting thing to sit on. Obviously some of you have spouses or partners that you have to have communication with. I would always encourage you to have communication with your partner to make sure you are making the best decision for your family. But ultimately, you got to ask yourself, do you trust yourself? Do you trust that Carlos knows what he's doing? Do you trust that Carlos is going to support you? Do you trust that you can actually solve a problem? If you can, I would say, listen, jump on this link, get her done. And Carlos, you want to leave us with any parting words?
Yeah, man. Like, I was one of them dudes. I'm telling you, Arios had it for cheap. He was like, he had it for cheap when he first introduced me, and I was like, nah, I don't need it. I ended up paying full price, but later on, and then I got it triple. And he kept saying that, it was like, yo, like, you paying, this seems like a lot now, but if you make, what I mean, like a $5,000 deal, this is nothing, right? But I'm telling you, curriculum gonna get you 15 to 20. 500 ain't a dent in that. And I understand people got their own situations. It's crazy times, but think about it like this. What I've learned, I just sold a virtual curriculum. I'm not going to be present, right? And they still paid me the same amount they would have paid me in person, right? You will change the game and you're adjusting. And once you figured out this information, you're gonna be unstoppable moving forward. So this can actually open the door for you tenfolds, right? So, like I said, if you into it, if you like me, if you really want to grow, if you're about something, right, and you want to, get to the next level, it'll get you there. And trust me, we're gonna keep saying this again. And I was one of them dudes. I was like, yo, I ain't paying this dude to make more money. This is a scam, dude. I was like saying all of that. I was like, nah, man, I'm gonna bet on myself, man. I got this. 3 months, wrote a book, and I swear I went from 1,000 to $5,000 deals, and then by the end of the year, I was in the double digits, 10,000 plus, and that was just speaking, right? And then now I'm making curriculums and all that, and I'm telling you, this is transformative. This is something that I seen, as Ariel said, it's a gap that I saw needed to be filled. Now my job is to help you find your gap, so that you can fill it.
That's right. So this the offer will be open until Sunday. So after Sunday hits, there's obviously New Year's around the corner, the start of the year, and then the classes start. So if this is something that you want to do, if you have to rearrange some finances or talk to some folks, you have between now and Sunday. If people are about to buy you a pair of socks and sweaters that you're never actually going to wear, and you'd say, hey, please don't do that. Invest in me making an impact in my business. You may want to make some phone calls. So just throwing it out there. Thank you, Carlos, for spending your time, for giving your gifts. And And genuinely, what I think people should feel, because I know I feel it, is you genuinely give a damn. And I think we need more people in the world who understand what it means to be an and person. And I'm big on this. It's not help people or make money. It's not make money or help people. It's help people and make money. You do good while you do well in the world, and you do well while you do good in the world. And I think that's super, super important. So thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you for spending your time with us. And remember, implement, take action, because there's someone out there that Carlos is never going to see, and I'm never going to see, that you have the ability to, and you owe it to that person to not keep these incredible gifts inside of yourself. So thank you all for being here. I appreciate you. Have a good night, and go drink some eggnog, because 'tis the season.
Watch LeBron kill it.